and go to this mode and then start recording again. And I'm going to do a Q&A that's like 6 minutes long because I played that game for the whole game, which was actually perfect. I'm really glad that I finished it this time. Here's a question. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat, and Eve and Chris will send them to me on Skype. I've never seen a game that functions quite like this. I like that it feels as if you're almost painting a picture. How does it affect your immersion? Do you enjoy having the ability to literally build the world yourself, or does it feel too overwhelming? So this question was asked quite a while ago, and I think that it's actually something that is I just threw myself off. It's dynamic. It changes over the course of the game. And early on, it's not overwhelming. It's actually very satisfying. Like in the opening scene in the garden, exploring that space felt really satisfying. It was something that I really wanted to do, and I wanted to over-explore it. And then sort of as I went out into the path, there was more like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to go where it wants me to go. Getting a sense of the world was sometimes like tricky. But it didn't feel overwhelming. And it also, I just want to sort of point out, it doesn't feel like I'm building the world. It feels very much like I'm discovering the world. There are games where you do literally build the world around you, and this is this feels very different than that. This feels like you're sort of like lifting up a curtain or a cloth that's covering everything up as you go. As soon as in the storm it stops, my memory of the world goes away, and I can only tell what's immediately around me, then all of a sudden it is intensely overwhelming. That change is by far the most dramatic shift of anything in this game. And when you're looking at games, when you're thinking about like what they do and what they mean and how they work, it is, I think, extremely valuable to look at those shifts in what shifts in the experience, I guess. What is the experience of playing the game from one moment to another? In one moment, being able to sort of build up a sense of space, to the next moment being completely lost in this white abyss. Huge change. It feels radically different. In terms of immersion, I don't know. I mean, I guess from the standpoint, immersed in the world, I don't know what kind of an effect it has on that. I mean, I'm very intent on discovering space, and I'm doing it kind of inch by inch. Whereas thinking about a game for no particular reason, like Dragon Age Inquisition, where you similarly are exploring a large space, but you're doing it in a very different way, and visually in a very different way. You like walk over a hill and then, hey, look, it's all of this stuff. And it feels like you're exploring, but your sense of exploration is mostly brought out of the expanse, the like, you know, volume of undiscovered, I should really say area, I guess, because that's the word that I want to say, but the undiscovered area, the sheer area of it. Whereas in this game, you have a similar sense of like discovery and intense sort of involvement in uncovering the world. I feel like I was just looking very closely, I guess, in a much smaller area, and obviously moving much slower through it. In terms of the character as a blind girl, I mean, I think that you know, having some representation of her blindness, absolutely. I mean, that was huge for me in terms of immersion, even though it was quite abstract. You know, even though it wasn't meant to be like a real blindness simulation, I think, you know, having some representation of that was really important for feeling like getting into that character's shoes. I guess I don't know how the game wants me to feel. Sad for the cat, happy that I made a friend along the way, lost in general. Yeah, I am in a similar boat. Like similarly, I felt like I was along for the ride for, you know, 90% of the game. And at the end, I don't feel sad for the cat. Although if you read the cat as like just definitely dead, which it's not hard to do, right? The cat like kept coming home, came to our house through season after season, through the winter. I guess spring is a time when a cat might seek new ground. But I like the game gives you ample opportunity to read the cat as dead. If you don't, then you don't necessarily feel bad for the cat. You do certainly feel bad for Ray, and it's a bittersweet ending because Ray finds a new friend, and presumably, I mean, like, I feel like this game hews pretty close to the you know, hero's journey story circle, to the point of like there's a you know, finding Lily at this, it wasn't really the lowest point, but towards the lowest point, like when you're deep in the journey, and then effectively bringing her back with you to the other side. I mean, like that's very archetypal. The end of that story circle, right, is that the hero finds what they're looking for, loses something important, returns home, having changed. And that's exactly what happened, right? We found what we were looking for, but it's not the way that we wanted to find it. And we return home having brought Lily out of our adventure with us to be a friend. I think that that's the intention. I think that the intention is that this is a story about the bittersweet start of a friendship. The pacing is just, I mean, it doesn't land, it doesn't stick that landing, I guess. It doesn't, that story, that climax doesn't land, for me at least. And I think it sounds like for a lot of chat. This might be too interpretive. I love too interpretive. But what do you think was the message in the story this game was telling? There were so many mechanics that complicated and enhanced the gameplay as you went along, and I guess I feel personally like I missed whatever the payoff was supposed to be for all that growth. I think that it intends for us to really take something away from that friendship, from finding Lily, from reading Ray at the beginning of the story as extremely lonely, which that's not hard to do. The game sets that up pretty explicitly, and having a cat is a mediocre solution. There's nothing wrong with having a cat, but perhaps she was complacent in that situation, or perhaps she just, circumstantially didn't have a reason to venture outside, but she was unhappy, and her unhappiness was not completely removed by Nani. She needed a friend, and I think perhaps the game doesn't stress that enough at the beginning. You don't start with this sense of, oh yes, it's a sad girl looking for her cat, who really is what she's really missing is something bigger than that. She's really missing like another, like a human companion, somebody that can be friends with her. If the game had like really made that explicit at the beginning, so that as a player, as an audience, that the nominal objective, I am trying to find my cat, is not actually the objective. The actual objective is for Ray to make a friend, because that's what she needs. That's what is going to help her in the long term, even if she doesn't know it, even if that's not the explicit purpose of this journey. Implicitly, from a narrative perspective, we know what will actually satisfy her, what will make her complete, is to make a friend. And when she makes a friend, then the cat doesn't matter so much anymore. And so maybe part of the problem is that her interaction with Lily doesn't feel significant until after the end of the story. And that's part of the pacing problem, is that, we really needed her to make that friend in a significant way, so that when she finds that the cat is missing, it's not just an utter abject sadness. It triggers a realization that Lily is even more important in her life. And that's not what happened. What happened was Lily came and found her later, which is, emotionally a very different thing. But I think the payoff was meant to be that essentially Ray is trading from a large narrative perspective, Ray is trading the ultimately unfulfilling love of her cat for a friendship that will be more fulfilling in the long run. That's supposed to be the payoff, and I think it was mishandled. Okay. Yeah, and then overcoming fear was also a thing. Like although only kind of. She never confronts any of the things that she's afraid of, and she never stops being afraid of anything. At the end, those crows, which are, I can understand being afraid of a dog. Like, that sounds terrifying, actually. But crows, you probably don't actually need to be afraid of crows. Like, crows are not gonna, they might caw at you, but if you get close to a crow, it is not gonna attack you. It is gonna fly away. Like, it knows that you are bigger than it is. And we saw a bunch of crows right at the end, and they were just as scary as they had ever been. And then we sort of come upon the graveyard, and there's a guy there. Like, there's some dude who I kept thinking that people in this game were going to be helpful, and they never were. And in fact, Ray is more afraid of that guy who's digging in the graveyard than she's afraid of anybody else in the whole game. So I don't know. It doesn't really feel like we overcame any of our fears. It feels like we were able to, we discovered that we were functional despite our fears, that we could go out into the world and do some things, even though a lot of the world was scary. But that's it wasn't a satisfying narrative of overcoming fear. Okay. It's pretty late, so that's going to be it. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much, Idle Satire, for this game. It was a lot of fun. It was really, really interesting. It did so many things so right, and then it kind of fell so flat at the end. It's really fascinating to see how that can happen, and hard to tell like what causes that. Quite possibly it's a playtesting issue, because the entire arc of your game is the hardest thing to playtest, because it means that people have to play all the way through your game. So when you're doing indie game dev, it can be really difficult to acquire quality playtesters, and to get that kind of commitment from them. So it might just be that, they didn't have enough feedback on the ending, on the whole arc of it, and they didn't have time maybe to fix things when they didn't quite come together. Would be my guess. Yeah, but it's interesting to see how a game that does so many things right could sort of kind of not stick the landing, I guess. So next week on Thursday night, I am going to be out at a movie theater watching Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Force Within is a different thing. Force Awakens is the movie that I'm going to be seeing a week from now. So there will be no play-by-play next week. And then the week after that is Christmas, or Christmas Eve. In any event, I'm going to be out of town and not with a streaming setup. So this is the last play-by-play for 2015. Thank you so much, everybody who joined me tonight, everybody who has been part of this community. This has been absolutely fantastic for me. It's coming around on New Year's, and I'm reflecting on the previous year. Jesus, a year ago, I certainly had no idea that there was this kind of community out there, that all of you wanted to this kind of thing and wanted to be a part of this. It's pretty amazing that this is all what has happened over the course of the last year, and I am so happy and so proud to be a part of it. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. There's gonna be, I believe there's a one of us tomorrow evening, and then I think it's Kelso, and then there might be one next week. It might be a Euro stream. I forget what the schedule is. And then I think there actually is one on Christmas Day if people are around and want to catch one of us on Christmas Day. And then other people's streaming schedules, I don't know exactly what people's schedules are going to be for the rest of the year. I imagine that most of them will be in their regular times this coming week. But the calendar is up on the forum. So check it out. It has all of this stuff on it. I think that's it. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, it's been a great year. This was a lot of fun, and I might have a chance to stream some Mass Effect between now and when I go home. Keep an eye on Twitter for that. Yeah, have a happy holiday season and a happy new year, and I will see you in 2016. Good night.